Hey everyone, welcome to the 20th episode of Classic Gaming Brothers. I'm Zach.
And I'm Seth.
And we're the Classic Gaming Brothers.
That's right. We are the Classic Gaming Brothers. And it's 20th. That's a pretty big episode.
Yeah, the big 2-0.
It's in fact our, let me do some high level math here. 20 plus 1 plus an additional 1. 22nd recording.
It's our 22nd technically 23rd recording, including
23rd.
the lost episode.
Yes, yeah, well, that's 23 of my hours that I've dedicated to this, but 22
Whoa.
listening hours.
So almost a full day of recording.
Almost a full day of recording. Perhaps we only did a full day recording and we finally are running out of material.
It might be. We might have started from the very beginning and have just gone through.
Anyway, let's
Seth, on this, the 20th episode of our podcast, what have you been playing?
So recently I've actually gotten into a game called Good Job. It's for the Nintendo Switch. It is fun. It's a lot lighter than what I usually play, but it is a good kind of casual type game that I can kind of pick up, play for a little bit, and then put down kind of thing. It's a physics-based puzzler type game, and the premise is that you're like a little stick figure guy, and his dad owns a company, and the little stick figure guy works for the company and is just a really bad employee and like smashes things and breaks things and stuff like that, and gets like BS jobs from his dad because his dad owns the company. So like, and you have to try and do the jobs from the ground up as best as you can, or as quickly as you can. And it involves like driving forklifts and like trying to water plants, and everything is destructible, and you can use like plug wire. So there's these big plugs, and you can use these big plugs to then like use them as an elastic and like throw things. So if you need to get something across the map, you can just like, so you're like, oh, you need to bring this worker, and you need to bring this worker to another part of the map. You could put the worker in a chair, because workers will sit down in like rolling chairs if you roll behind them. And then you could just drag the worker into an elastic and throw the worker across the map. And that could be a way that you can accomplish your objective. It's fun. It's funny. And it's just a lot of fun. I really like it. I saw the previews in the eShop. It's going for about $20. And I needed with what's going on with the quarantine and all that jazz, I needed something light that wasn't like deep kind of game, and I enjoyed it. So it was a Good Job by the Switch, or for the Switch, and I'm not sure if it's on any other platforms. I really didn't look into that. I just know it's on the Switch. So there's that. So it's called Good Job, and I would recommend it. It's fun. What about you? What have you recently been playing?
Well, I've recently been playing a fairly older game. It's about 10 years old now, and that is StarCraft 2. Specifically the single player campaign, Wings of Liberty. I never played it when it came out in 2010. I didn't have a computer that ran it, that could run it. And I recently downloaded it because as of a few years ago, Blizzard made the single player campaign free to play along with the multiplayer. So I have been enjoying it. It plays fairly similar to the first StarCraft, I've noticed, except it has a lot nicer graphics, and it has some updated gameplay mechanics, and also some updated players that you can have, like different units and stuff like that. But yeah, so far enjoying it. The story is StarCrafty. It's not really anything to write home about. You know, Raynor here. Kerrigan's doing her thing. You have to shoot a lot of bad guys, shoot a lot of Zerg.
My favorite part of StarCraft 2 is that my favorite StarCraft character comes back from being killed, who is Alexei Stukov,
Oh yeah.
the admiral of the United Earth Directorate. A very obscure character, and nobody cares that he dies, but I did. And he comes back. Yeah, he gets better.
So yeah, so far I've been enjoying it. I've just been kind of taking it easy and playing through it. Really, I'm not really super invested in the plot. I've just been enjoying the classic real-time strategy feel to the game, which you don't really get a lot of days with modern games.
Yeah, no, the RTS genre, that's actually something that that's like I have to go back to classic games, which is why I'm also excited about remastered Command and Conquer, because I feel like the RTS genre for what it was 10 years ago has changed dramatically. I mean, there's still like real-time strategy type games, but not I don't know if they feel as well as, like, they don't feel like StarCraft, Warcraft type base building, unit production kind of stuff. Some of them even cut out base building entirely. The 40K real-time strategy did that. Their original launch was very similar to like a StarCraft type game, and then as they made sequels, they cut out the resources and the base building and just gave you an allotment of troops.
Yeah.
And hero units started becoming popular and stuff like that. And hero units are in StarCraft too. And one more thing about StarCraft 2 before we move on to the meat of the episode. But that was 10 years ago. StarCraft 2 was, I believe, the first and last game that I went to a midnight release for at a physical store. We went to Best Buy, and we waited outside of a Best Buy for them to open their doors at midnight to sell StarCraft. And I went with a bunch of friends, and they opened the doors, we went in, you walked up to a counter, they gave you a copy of StarCraft, and you left. And that's it. And it was Wings of Liberty. I really enjoyed the original campaign of the Wings of Liberty, and then they released the Zerg campaign and the Protoss campaigns later. I still haven't actually beaten the Protoss campaign because they had such a lag between release dates that I played the Terran campaign, I played the Zerg campaign, and then I started to get into the Protoss campaign, but by the time it came out, I kind of forgot what happened to the other campaigns, and I have to kind of go back and forth between. It is on my to-do list to resolve that campaign. I have to get through some other games on the priority list. But so the episode that we're going to do today is actually about Zach's favorite character.
Absolutely.
In all of gaming.
Ever.
Favorite character across any intellectual property.
That's right.
Out there.
Favorite literary character, favorite video game character, and favorite movie character.
Favorite movie character. You can say that now.
That's right.
A favorite television character?
Favorite television character. He was in an anime. Favorite anime character.
Favorite anime, yes.
That is Sonic the Hedgehog.
The blue hedgehog is Zach's favorite character. So, since it's your favorite character, and we're gonna go into memories, I'm gonna go with my memories first.
Yeah,
because I'm the older brother. So actually, Sonic the Hedgehog was one of the first video game characters that I was able to own, I guess. Like, he came on the first game that came with the Sega Genesis, or the Mega Drive for our European friends. Came with a bundle of games, and that bundle included Sonic 2. I'm not sure if it actually came with any other game beyond Sonic 2, but the Genesis that we bought and what came with Sonic 2. And a very iconic picture of Sonic 2 is with Sonic and Tails at the bottom of the big 2, and the Dr. Robotnik like over the 2 crushing it, and the Dr. Robotnik scary face above the 2. Iconic image.
There's some like fun fact, there's some art inconsistencies. The person that did the artwork for that drew him with like kind of like a beard and made his eyes black. He was supposed to be wearing glasses.
Well, he looks much scarier in the
He does look much scarier.
So I ended up playing that game a lot. And as akin to our family, we owned Sonic 2 before we owned Sonic 1. So we did have to wait a bit before we were able to pick up the prequel to the sequel of the game. And eventually, over time, we picked up Sonic 1, and then we picked up Sonic 3 and Sonic and Knuckles, which was a cool system where you can interlock the two games. But Sonic 2, I had some really iconic and memorable levels for me. I think, I mean, obviously, like the Emerald Hill and Chemical Plant are pretty like staple locations, but I feel like for me, I always felt like I really liked Metropolis as a zone towards the end.
Yeah,
I like the gears and the pistons and the weird robots by the time you get there. And I thought the Chemical Zone?
Chemical Plant.
Chemical Plant, yeah. That was always a fun zone to play through as well. I think the music as well. It was a really cool score, I think, throughout all of the levels. And I don't think there's anything that's more nerve-wracking than Sonic drowning. I think that's probably the most
that like do 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 do
yeah,
and it just kind of gets progressively scarier.
Yeah, it's a scary, nerve-wracking noise.
Yeah,
it is. If you haven't heard it, we might be able to splice it in. But
I could probably drop it in.
And then you can also be terrified by it. Spoiler alert, we'll have the Sonic drowning noise in here somewhere. Zach, what about you? What are your memories about Sonic?
Yeah, so I think one of the earliest Christmas memories I have was us getting the Sega Genesis Mark III, the version 3 system, which was the smaller system.
Yes, yep. So replace the broken one that we broke.
Yeah. And I believe the Sega 3 came with Sonic 3D Blast as a copy of the game. Though I remember playing Sonic 2 before that. I specifically remember playing as Tails, or rather probably holding a controller that was not plugged in, if anything.
Right? No. I'd let you play as Tails.
Yeah, because Tails couldn't do any damage.
No, he could do damage, and he didn't die. That's the
true,
purpose.
Yeah. Well, I mean that like Tails couldn't do damage to you.
Right.
Yeah. Like if I died, it didn't like affect your lives.
Correct.
And Tails dies a lot.
Especially when played by Zach.
Especially when played by like 4-year-old me. I just remembered it was one of my first memories of playing a game. I remember turning on the system, the licensed by Sega screen coming up, and then the blue Sega, and then the really like catchy music that would play. You'd have the stars kind of like appearing on the screen out of the black, and the ring would appear with Sonic popping out of it, doing his little like finger wave that he does. And I think probably my memories of the game in terms of Sonic 1 are like Green Hill Zone, the Spring Yard Zone, and the final zone, which name escapes me completely right now for some reason.
It's just the final zone.
Well, there's the final zone, which is the like,
Spring
the
Metal.
boss. There's something like that.
Scrap Metal.
Scrap Brain Zone. That's what it is. Scrap Brain Zone.
It is Scrap Metal, everybody.
Scrap Brain Zone.
Scrap Brain. That's actually what it is.
Yes.
Not Scrap Metal.
Not Scrap Metal.
It is Scrap Brain.
It's made of scrap metal, maybe.
It is made of scrap metal because Dr. Robotnik built it, and he's not good.
And then I remember in Sonic 2, I remember, Emerald Hill Zone, I remember Oil Ocean Zone, and Sky Chase, which always was really cool. And Metropolis.
Sky Chase is just so random.
It's the like, weirdest part of the game because it's an on-a-rails segment.
Yeah, it's so for anyone not familiar with Sonic 2, which if you're listening to a podcast about classic video games, I don't know if you might not be familiar with this particular level, but there's a level called Sky Chase Zone in Sonic 2 where you have to stand on a plane flown by Tails, and you can control the plane up and down, but it just linearly goes through this path, and then you have to jump on these enemies that are in the air, and it's just different pacing because it slows you down, unlike every other level in the game. Yeah, sorry for me to interject there, but
no, that's fine. So yeah, those are most of my memories of Sonic. In terms of not just the game, I was growing up at a time where the television shows that were being produced by Deke Entertainment, such as The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog and Sonic the Hedgehog, known as Saturday AM, were starting to come out on VHS tape. So I would borrow those from usually the video rental store that was local to us. The comic series was still in effect, and my father used to pick me up a copy of the Sonic the Hedgehog comic series from our Stop and Shop like every month, which was when those comics were coming out at the time.
Yeah.
So I amassed this like massive collection that I still have to this day of Sonic the Hedgehog comics, which have some wild plots, by the way.
Were they originally done by Dark Horse?
No, they were done by Archie.
Okay.
And then Archie got rid of the license just about a year or so ago, and they were picked up by IDW.
Okay.
Yeah. So, those comics are wild. They are. I was rereading them recently, and there's like a whole storyline that takes place in like an alternate future where Knuckles' dad dies of cancer.
Oh,
and
geez.
There's another storyline where Shadow the Hedgehog has this like human friend that he grew up with who like has the Sonic version of AIDS, and she gets shot by the government. It's like really weird for a kid's comic.
Yeah, it's really
but
weird.
So maybe someday I'll do like a live stream or something of just me reading through some of the weirder issues that I have, because I have a ton of them. But those are some of my memories of Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah, you definitely. I feel like you got more merch than I did, for sure.
Yes, yeah, I think so too.
I did also want to. I remember we had two different Segas, and it's two different Sega Genesises, and they were two actual different machines. Like
yes.
the Sega 3. Didn't Sega 3 have a toggle on the?
No, the Sega 3 just had like, it was really tiny, and it just had like these ugly looking buttons. But we had the Sega Model 1, which had the toggle, and it had a volume switch.
And we had the one with the two middle ones, too.
Yep, that was the Sega Model 2. We owned all three models of the Sega Genesis.
That's right, because they were all broken.
They all broke in some way. I think the last one that we had was the Sega Model 2, which I still own. It's sitting behind me right now in my room.
No, the Sega Model 2 was our original.
No, I had the one that we got from Dan.
Oh, that one, yes.
Yes. So we did have a second Sega Model 2.
So do you want to get into a little bit of the history of Sonic here?
Yes. So jumping back into the early 90s, in 1990, Sega decided they wanted to beat the powerhouse that was Nintendo, and specifically Mario. So Sega at the time had a mascot. His name was Alex Kidd, and he was on the Sega Master System, which was Sega's 8-bit console that was out at the time. However, Alex Kidd is kind of a slow-moving platformer. He hits blocks, he jumps on enemies, kind of sounds like a certain Italian plumber. So Sega decided they need something to beat Mario because Alex Kidd wasn't selling that well. So they ordered their in-house development studio to create a new video game mascot to replace Alex Kidd. They wanted it to emphasize speed. They wanted him to be cool, and they wanted it to be an animal. They didn't want it to be human. So they tossed around ideas such as a rabbit was an early design, a blue rabbit. There was another one that was a design that looked like Teddy Roosevelt. I don't know why they wanted Teddy Roosevelt. That was supposed to be the protagonist. It was like Teddy Roosevelt in pajamas, who later got recycled to be used as Dr. Robotnik, the villain. And then eventually they settled upon either an armadillo or a hedgehog, and they decided with hedgehog. He was originally teal colored, but they shifted to a dark blue so he could stand out against the backgrounds. And Sonic's red shoes were inspired by Michael Jackson's boot from the album cover of Bad, and his personality was reportedly inspired by president at the time, Bill Clinton.
Right. Which we talked about.
We did talk about in our iconic video game characters. Yeah. The lead programmer and the directors of the first game was Mr. Yuji Naka in Japan. So they started developing this game to be fast and quick. And they really like to emphasize on the worlds seeming to go from one world to the next in a logical progression. So the idea that, Green Hill Zone can easily change into Marble Zone, and then that could easily change into Spring Yard Zone, and in a logical progression of zones, so it doesn't feel too out of place that these worlds are, interspliced with each other. They wanted the world to feel coherent to itself.
And I feel like all of it is like a world that is tainted by Dr. Robotnik.
And we'll talk about kind of the story of Sonic, I guess, in a bit. But yeah, they wanted the levels to feel like they had been influenced by this kind of battle between technology and nature, which was this kind of overarching theme in Sonic the Hedgehog.
Nature versus technology.
That's right.
Or nature versus man.
Nature versus man, maybe. So the work began on the second game fairly soon after the first game started. The first game did really well, so they jumped into work on the second game. Yuji Naka left Sega due to disagreements over corporate policy, and a lot of the second game's production shifted over to Sega of America, who was getting started out in that area. So it kind of shifted over to a Sega of America project. Music in both games was composed by Matsumoto Nakamura, who was the bassist and songwriter for the J-pop band Dreams Come True. And if you listen to any of the Dreams Come True songs, they sound like melodic versions of Sonic the Hedgehog music. They have a song that sounds like the Green Hill Zone theme. They have a song that sounds like Starlight from Sonic 1. And probably the most obvious song that sounds similar to one of their songs is a song called Sweet, 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 which is the exact same song that plays during the closing of Sonic 2 during like a cinematic where Sonic's falling out of the death egg.
And that's a very anime feeling closing. Like it all of a sudden just goes to like almost like cartoon shots of like Sonic and Tails like
that are in like black
out.
And white.
Yeah,
they're dramatic,
like very artistic, dramatic.
Yeah.
And then then it kind of cuts back into the game stuff, if I recall. Like it goes where you're seeing the death egg, or maybe
it's like the death egg like exploding, and then Sonic is dropping down, and then Tails swoops in with his plane and picks him up, and
or that's the end of Sonic 3.
That's the end of Sonic 2. Sonic 3 ends in a very similar way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But the music that plays during that whole segment is literally just a Genesis version of Sweet, Sweet, Sweet by Dreams Come True, which was out on an earlier album.
I feel like the end of Sonic 2 is all it's all in like panels.
Yeah, it's like there's like they're like black and white images where you see, but
very
then
artistic images.
Yep, and then it fades to Sonic dropping as the sprite, and Tails picks him up, and then the credits roll.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
and then Sonic 3, which is
it doesn't have those panels. It's just him dropping out and gets
it's just the sprites for the entire time.
So Sonic 2 has a relatively famous history in development that's fairly easy to track. Sonic 1, we have stories and we have like art design and stuff from the development period, but we don't have a lot of beta versions of the game except for some screenshots from magazines. Sega kept that game like tightly under wraps. And also it was Sonic 1, and because the game wasn't super popular when it was in development, obviously people weren't like necessarily saving these things. So when Sonic 2 was in development, a lot of beta copies ended up getting out into the market and would either get sold as bootlegs or would get released onto early message boards and internet sites at the time. Some of them are getting more released now, which is kind of like an interesting way to track the history of the development of the game. The original idea for Sonic 2 was it was going to be a time travel game, which they ended up scrapping because it was a bit too difficult to do the time travel mechanic that they wanted to do at the time. And there were some interesting levels that they had that were in some of the early games, levels such as Hidden Palace Zone, which was fully playable in one of the betas, Wood Zone, which was mostly playable in one of the betas, Dust Hill Zone, which has never been playable in any of the betas, and Genocide City Zone, which is just a bad name for a level.
It's a really bad name for a level. And that was an official beta level by the company?
Yeah, so if you and you can see if you go into one of the official betas that got leaked, you do a level select code, you'll see all the levels listed out, and Genocide City Zone is listed as one of the final levels.
And it's not playable, or is it?
It's not playable. So when you try to load it, the beta crashes. Reportedly, the name was a placeholder name, and they were considering Cyber City, and there was a translation issue when they were explaining the name of the game to the English translators. So it came out as Genocide City, which, is awkward. And yeah, so, probably a good reason why they scrapped that name out of the game.
Definitely.
One of the betas, fun fact, you can play pretty much all the betas through like emulators and stuff. They've all been leaked onto various Sonic history tracking websites. But one of the betas appeared on the Nick Arcade show back in the 90s and was played by a young Melissa Joan Hart as part of the show. This was when she was part of Clarissa Explains It All, not Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
Correct.
So Nick Arcade was the show where they would demo some new games that were coming out, and they had like challenges to see if you can get through parts of the game in a certain time. She was one of the contestants. So she got to play Sonic 2 before many of us did. She played a not very good beta copy of the game, but she still played it.
So Melissa Joan Hart's feedback may have been insurmountable for...
One of the elements in the beta for Sonic 2 was if Sonic ran into a wall, he would bounce backwards, sit on the ground for a second, and then stand up again. So I'm pretty sure she was probably like, hey, that's not good.
Sure, maybe. And then she might have helped define the Sonic 2 game that everyone fell in love with.
That's right. And that's pretty much the history of the two games. I mean, Sonic 1, again, the information that we have isn't the same as Sonic 2, because Sonic 2 has kind of a logical progression in terms of the betas that are in the public at the moment. For Sonic 1, we just have screenshots, so that's all we know. We know that there were certain level choices they opted out of, such as like UFOs in the background of certain levels that they just cut out, and some other game mechanics that they took out that people aren't even sure what they did. There was like this ball thing that would pop up in Green Hill Zone that you could like ride on for a bit, and people aren't really sure if it did anything besides being an obstacle. It looked like it was the same ball that Robotnik has as his boss.
Oh, it was Wrecking Ball.
It was like Wrecking Ball, but it was like an item in the game. There was like a pair of goggles that Sonic could wear, but people aren't really sure what they did. They assume they're for like the water level, but there's no evidence of what it does. So Sonic 2 has a bit easier ways to track what certain features were because of the evidence that is available in the ROM data.
Right. And I think that'd be kind of cool if Sonic had goggles for the water level. Yeah,
they actually, I think, added the goggle design back into Sonic Mania for when Sonic, if you play as Tails and Sonic is flying the tornado, he's wearing the goggles, which are the actual goggle asset.
Oh, that's fun.
Sonic Mania does a lot of cool stuff like that. A lot of references to old stuff, even cut stuff.
The Dr. Robotnik, and his different weapons that he would attack Sonic with, I think some of them were a lot of fun. When you said the Wrecking Ball, that made me kind of think about like the Wrecking Ball and the big drill in Sonic, drill car in Sonic 2, and I feel like he's that kind of mad scientist trope who always makes like ridiculous type of inventions.
Yeah.
Also, generally, Dr. Robotnik's inventions work.
They
Sonic
work.
breaks
They're
them.
just like,
Yeah.
I don't know if they work. They work as intended. I just don't know what the
Right.
intention was. There's like one of his designs is like a device that just spews goo at you, and like, yeah, it does it, but like, why?
Or what is it? He has one level where he just floats around with ghosts.
Yeah, he just like has ghosts. Yeah, it's like, okay.
That's the boss of Metropolis. He has like
he has like the
ghosts that roll
weird
around
ghost
him.
orbs that like will turn into little like mini versions of him.
It's like little Saturn rings that go around.
Yeah. He has the creative genius. He just doesn't have the vision. That's Robotnik's problem.
So to get to the gameplay of Sonic, I hope that people will understand that Sonic is a linear platformer where you play as Sonic the Hedgehog, as evident by the name of the game. And you have to fight Dr. Robotnik, Ivo Robotnik.
Yes.
And in order to do so, you have to speed through all your levels, picking up rings versus instead of coins, and stopping Robotnik robots. They're badniks, as they're called, and they have little animals that are inside them that they've been some manner of trapped inside the robot.
Yeah, it's never inferred how or why.
Right.
It's just that's what he uses to power is
there's
small,
there's
creatures.
small woodland creatures Dr. Robotnik is not a fan of, so he puts them in robots and also keeps them in storage containers that you have to open up at the end of the final stages of the levels. And Sonic 2 has the first ability to have co-op in the Sonic games.
Yep.
And introduces Tails as a secondary character. You can play as Sonic and Tails again in Sonic 3, but you cannot play as Knuckles with any of the others. I think Knuckles is a standalone character.
Yeah, I think Knuckles is a standalone character. In Sonic Mania, you can play as Knuckles and Tails. There's also a cheat you can enter where you can play as Knuckles and Knuckles.
Oh, that's fun. Knuckles and Knuckles. So, because Knuckles was an interesting character that was introduced in Sonic 3, who was a red echinida who could stick to walls and hover, like he could float.
Neither being natural abilities of the echidna. Echidnas are like platypus. They cannot stick to walls. They cannot fly.
Yeah, please don't throw a platypus or echinida to see if it can do what Knuckles can do. Miles in Sonic 2 had the ability to fly. If you were playing as if you had a co-op, you could have someone pick you. No, you couldn't pick them up in.
Not in Sonic 2. In Sonic 3, you can pick them up.
Yeah, in Sonic 2, he couldn't fly.
He couldn't. He does fly, but you're not able to control it.
Yeah,
he will fly if you die as Tails.
He'll
he will come back. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, in Sonic 2, he's just a glorified Sonic.
He's just like slow, bad Sonic.
But he can still spin duck, which is a move where you bend down and then you spin yourself into a fast speed and then go off as a ball. So, and then Sonic 3, Tails can pick Sonic up. The Miles Tails Prower is his name, is a pun on the miles per hour.
A very bad pun, but it's a pun nonetheless.
It's a bad pun. And he had two tails. There was also in Sonic 2, you could also go head to head. And you could see who could do time trials. And to talk about our father again, we used to do time trials against him. We spent many nights playing Sonic 2 and trying to go up against our dad's time, or setting time for our dad to go up against.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like I think of the level of Mystic Cavern when I think of the time trials against Dad.
Yeah.
All the time.
Our father also really liked different elements of Sonic that I feel like some people aren't big fans of. Like, for example, Seth mentioned the drowning sound.
Oh, yeah.
Our father's favorite sound in Sonic was when you collect the air bubble, Sonic makes a whoop sound. And our dad loved that. He was also a big fan of the kind of forgotten spin-off, Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine,
Yes.
which was a reskin of a Japanese game called Puyo Puyo that we didn't have America didn't have that franchise, so they just turned it into a Sonic game, essentially. But our father loved that game. It was one of his favorite games.
Yes.
He's a very puzzle strategy-minded person, so
yes, that's why he plays Warcraft and Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine. He's that.
The only two games that exist.
The only two games that exist. Yeah, I think the Sonic and Sonic 2 for me they're just they're good platformers. If you just want to have a good fun hour, if you can, because I think that's about the playthrough. If you're going through maybe an hour and a half if you're taking it slow. But
yeah, if you take your time, if you want to collect all the Chaos Emeralds, if you want to really explore every nook and cranny of the level before the time runs out, there's a 9-minute time limit on each level. Then it would probably be about an hour 30, I can imagine.
So, do you have anything else for Sonic for our 20th episode?
The only thing I'd say is that if anyone hasn't played it yet, I highly recommend picking up Sonic Mania. Even if your only experience with Sonic was like Sonic 1 or 2, then it's the perfect game for you. It is a love letter to not only Sonic, but of games of that era, that kind of classic Sega 1990s era. There's tons of references to Sonic the Hedgehog and other Sega games from the 90s. One of the bosses is a robot you have to fight that uses sound effects from Shinobi for the Sega Genesis. There's tons of references in there. There's a Mean Bean Machine boss where you play a game of Mean Bean Machine against Dr. Robotnik.
That's fun.
It's like one round of Mean Bean Machine, you have to beat him. So there's tons of references to other Sega games and Sonic games. I highly recommend people pick it up. It is one of my absolute favorite Sonic games, if not games. So that's my recommendation at the end of the Sonic episode.
It's a pretty solid game. I definitely recommend playing it with a controller versus mouse and keyboard if you play it on PC. I think it's on other platforms though.
It is. It's on PS4. It's on Xbone. It's on Switch.
It's on Switch. Yeah.
You should get the Plus version for Switch. It has what's called Encore mode. And the box for it has a reversible cover that looks like an old Sega Genesis box. It has like the red,
that's fun.
The red border to it that says like Sega and stuff like that. So
no, I might buy that. But
yeah, it's probably not too expensive. It's like $20, I think.
Yeah, $50.
$1 million, $1 badillion.
So we'll let's go into talking about the future and what's going to be going on that's coming out.
That's right.
What do you? Well, I already know. But what are you most excited about?
I'm excited about something. I do want to apologize. I've been trying to keep it to games that are in early access or in early release, so that we can offer you a game that is still in development that you can buy now. But this game. Right. This game you're going to want to get. I know it's free. It's free, so it's a free buy. And that is Chex Quest HD. So if you saw me on Twitter freak out at the announcement of Chex Quest HD as a Classic Gaming Brother Twitter, then it's everything. So Chex Quest HD is coming out summer of 2020, so just a few months from now. Will be a free game on Steam. It's built in the Unreal Engine. And again, it's free. I mean, that's great. It's going to be an HD multiplayer remake of Chex Quest from 1996. You have 6 unlockable characters in the game. I'm looking at a picture of them now. So you have obviously Chex Guy, the Chex Warrior. You have like a Chex Girl. She's added. There's like a pretzel dude. There's 2 pretzel dudes. There's like one little loopy pretzel dude, and then there's another that's this big square pretzel dude. There's like a peanut guy, and then I think he's like a wasabi pea or something. So I think Chex is just embracing the fact that people don't eat their cereal and they just make Chex Mix with it.
Perfect. They're like, we know this is not actually a cereal that you eat in a bowl. Yeah. Well, you do eat it in a bowl. You just mix it with other things because it's actually just a complement to a mix of trail mix.
I will also say the best thing about this is because it's available on Steam for the first time ever as a publisher, we have General Mills listed as a Steam publisher. because General Mills is the official publisher for Chex Quest HD. It is an officially sanctioned game from General Mills.
Perfect.
And multiplayer, split screen multiplayer specifically, they are offering. So that it's going to be a split screen multiplayer experience. And because it's free, I'm going to have to buy. I mean, it's not even a buy. I'm just going to download it and play it when it comes out. I'm extremely excited for it.
And you'll probably be able to see us play it on stream.
Oh, I'm probably going to play it the day it comes out on stream. So keep an eye out for me playing it, because I'm incredibly excited for it. Yeah, it's going to be great. It's even if it's terrible, it's going to be great. It's just the fact that it's Chex Quest. So Seth, are you excited for a game that's not Chex Quest?
I am excited for a game that's not Chex Quest. There's actually I wanted to do a little twofer today in regards to the games that I'm excited about. One is a game that is coming out that no one knew that was going to come out until very recently. And one of the first game for my twofer is the XCOM Chimera Squad. Or Chimera Squad, I guess.
Chimera, yeah.
Chimera. Chimera is just a horrible... It's a chimera.
I don't know what a chimera is.
It's a chimera.
A chimera is something.
It's a chimera. It's coming out April 24th and was just announced by 2K the week of I want to say earlier, the week of the 12th, like sometime like recently. They were just like, oh, by the way, we've been working on an XCOM game here. And it's a standalone, all-new story, turn-based tactical combat experience in XCOM. It is currently 50% off, so it's $9.99. It's going to retail at $19.99, and it's going to be apparently you're going to be able to have aliens on your team, which is new since it's XCOM stands for Extraterrestrial Combat Unit. So you'll be able to have aliens on your team for the first time.
Are they going to be offended by that?
They might be offended. Where you're going against a new threat. So you have to team up with aliens and try to coexist and go up against a new random threat. So that game was not going to be my buy wait pass, but I decided that I was going to put that down there because it's XCOM, and I love XCOM as much as Zach loves Chex Quest. And so I'll put that down as a buy. So for my second twofer buy-way pass is actually a piece of software. So I guess it's good that I have an actual game in my buy-way pass.
Yeah.
So the piece of software, because of what's going on in the world today, as of the time of recording and definitely at the time of release, is we're all quarantining ourselves to fight the pandemic. And there's a software called Dungeon Painter Studio, which is a counter map design tool that you can easily import to different virtual tabletops. So
cool.
It's for designing things for role-playing games or tabletop role-playing games, but you can make it for if you have Roll20, Fantasy Grounds, Tabletop Simulator, or whatever VTT you use, which is virtual tabletop. You can design and make these really cool maps and then just export them and import them into a software that you're using for your VTT. And it's $15, and it's easy. It's easy to use. You can kind of edit things around. I'm sure it comes with certain stuff. It is in early access, so they are still working on it. But it's got very positive reviews on Steam, and out of 1,100 reviews, so that's pretty good. So I definitely, if you really like tabletop games and you wanted to kind of get some fresh maps for your characters, then try Dungeon Painter Studio. It's on Steam. So, and also since it's on Steam, you can use it for 2 hours, and if you don't like it, you can return it.
Yeah.
So definitely, I would give it a recommend. I'm gonna put it on a wait. am not actively DMing a campaign right now, so I don't really have a use for it.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
So I'm just going to I put it on my wish list, and if my need comes around that I'll need it, I'll probably pick it up.
Very cool. Well, hey,
So
I think that about wraps it up for our
it
20th
for the big
episode.
2-0.
The big 2-0. Our podcast can almost drink.
Yes. Yes, drink. So there's a couple of ways that you can contact us, follow us, or support us. You can contact us by sending us an email at classicgamingbrothers@gmail.com. You can also go to our website, which is classicgamingbrothers.com, and you can go to our feedback or contact us page and go to the feedback form and fill out feedback. While you're there, you can stop by our merch shop and you could pick up either a t-shirt or a mug for $20. Free shipping, because we like to free ship things. And we don't actually make them, so who knows? I think they come from North Carolina, but yeah, we have a print-on-demand service that ships them out, and there we go. Some people have enjoyed them, so you can also, more importantly, if you want to support us, you can listen to our podcast, you can subscribe to our podcast, you can ring all the bells for notifications, and you can tell just 3 friends about our podcast. We like 3 friends. We like everything to be done in 3s, but so 3 friends to let them know that this is a great podcast. And if they want a podcast, they can listen to ours.
Yeah, perfect.
And
also,
you can also listen to us.
Well, yeah, because it's a podcast. But you can also
on
watch
any
us.
podcast app, including now Acast.
Acast!
Which is a new podcast app that we were not on, and we are now on because somebody requested it. So if you find us, if you use a podcast listening app and we're not on it, let us know, and we will do our darndest to get onto it. You can also watch us on Twitch and also YouTube. At both of those are at Classic Gaming Brothers. Zach has a multiplayer stream at VS Classic Gaming Brothers, where he plays his side of the story. But yeah, so there's that. So there's lots of things you could do. You can, if you just want more Classic Gaming Brothers content, we'll make it for you. That's what we're doing.
And who doesn't?
Most of the world.
Wow.
Yeah. So, is there anything else you wish to add, Zach?
Don't play games like my brother.
And don't play games like my brother.
I've been Zach.
And I've been Seth.
And we have been the Classic Gaming Brothers.
That's right.
Sega!
Thank God this episode's over. That was torture.
What, listening to me?
Yes.